Hello, everybody, and welcome to the May 24th, 2022 iteration of the Kubernetes SIG Windows community meeting. As always, these meetings are recorded and uploaded to YouTube, so be sure to adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct. We have a pretty light agenda today. I think some folks may be recovering from KubeCon, but we can get started. Only announcements I have are kind of 125 release related. I believe this week is the first week 0 or week 1 of the 125 release. So I guess we're officially in the 125 release cycle. Enhancements freeze again is, I believe they moved it to Thursday, June 16th. So that's less than a month away now to do that, to get any enhancements that are needed kind of approved for the milestone. So that's probably the most important 125 deadline coming up. Yeah, if anybody else has any announcements, feel free to add them. If not, we can welcome some new contributors. Okay, yeah, so we can give some space to welcome anybody who's new to the call. If they'd like to introduce themselves, ask any questions to anybody, just say hi. Feel free to do so. Okay, and now, I guess now on to the agenda. I guess we don't really have much of the agenda. I was wondering if folks who were at KubeCon had anything they wanted to report or comment on. If not, I think we could talk about we could find some things to talk about, especially the kube proxy image. That's something that we were talking about in Slack. I think, yeah. Claudio, you were at KubeCon, anything?
Yeah, it was interesting being there. It was my first KubeCon as well. I did meet quite a lot of people there, and I've also saw some interest in regards for Windows, for example. And I did engage with some of them and invited them to SIG Windows and of course the SIG Windows meetings, since they might or should actually have some vested interest in what we're doing here and what we're discussing. For example, there was some new type of CNI which I saw there, and I basically told them that, hey, maybe you should come by and say hi, because we also have something called like the Windows, what was it, Windows Operational Readiness Cap, which might be interesting for them to read and see that they actually pass as well, since that's something that they wanted to do. Also saw some sort of service meshes, and also including for Windows, which was interesting. Also met people at Calico, which they basically told me to also bug them with any issues that we actually find, and I have to follow up on that. And one thing that I was a bit I wasn't expecting to see there. Basically, Microsoft has had a Forza Horizon 5 booth there with booths of cars and so on. And I basically found out they actually run in Windows containers, which I did not expect that. So, yeah. We also had the SIG Windows update meeting, which was virtual, and we had some presence there as well, and a couple of questions. And we might have to follow up on a couple of items that people have asked during the session, especially when it comes to image building, if they join us and there's some interest regarding that as well. What else? And we also had the SIG meet and greet. Mostly there were basically the TCs from other SIGs there, but there were a couple of people there who were interested in joining various SIGs, and there were a couple of people who I've talked there as well. And there was one extra SIG that I actually engaged with, and they're interested in, you know, adding us to our ranks, to say so, which is the CI signal SIG basically. And I also suggested them some sort of new feature for Spyglass, in which would technically benefit us as well. Basically proposed that a new feature should be to also list the tests that run in parallel with the failing test. So we might be able to find the noisy neighbor type of tests, which causes other tests to fail, which is something that we've also seen previously in our test runs, like the test which spawns like 40 pods, which causes other pods to time out while spawning, especially since tests expect the pods to be up and running in 1 minute. What else? I that's what I remember for now, I think. There were quite a lot of interesting topics, but I did not get to go to all of them, unfortunately. Only a couple of them which were of more interest to me. That's
Great.
it for me.
Yeah, it's a lot of interest, a lot of activity going on.
And if anyone wants to, the recording of the SIG Windows talk is still up there, so feel free to take a look at that.
Are they live yet?
Just put the link. They started to post them.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I don't have the SIG Windows one, but that's the link to all of the talks.
Last week, for other reasons, I went and started a YouTube playlist and tried to track down all of the old Windows related talks at past KubeCons. I think I got maybe 3/4 of the ones that I was looking for. I'll continue with that, and I'll post the link maybe up here in the docs if people are interested. A lot of times, especially the deep dives that we go into in those talks are really good sources of information about how like Windows handles containers and things like that. So those might be interesting for folks. Yeah. Brandon, you were at KubeCon. Do you have anything you wanted to comment on?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of really interesting stuff going on there. I attended quite a lot of the conferences or the sessions, the breakout sessions, and talked to a lot of customers directly. There's a lot of excitement in the space, and there's a bunch of things we're going to start focusing on with Windows, specifically in terms of performance and reliability, image size, image caching, teleport, and all of that sort. And it looks like those are very popular features for customers, and it was great to get to meet people and talk a lot about this stuff. So lots of interesting things. Actually, host process containers were a big topic. I should mention that. So again, thank you to everyone here who's helped contribute to that feature, especially with companies who are doing any sort of log monitoring or security monitoring. Host process containers are a huge help for them with Windows. So thanks again for that.
There's another thing that I remember, which I thought was quite interesting and of value. There was some sort of new standard or technology which the folks from HPE have worked on, which would basically provide identity to containers, pretty much. And basically, they are doing it based on the containers process ID and basically on the namespaces they are spawned in. So basically, they can authenticate between each other without with a lot more ease. Now the thing, and also they added support for Windows as well, which again interesting. Now, from what I remember, they basically added support for Docker to this point. And one of the things that we also asked was, how about containerd, since that's the route so we're actually going forward on. And they also mentioned that it is next on their agenda to add support for containerd as well, which will also work for Windows as well. Seems that, oh, by the way, this was actually a topic focused for adding support for Windows directly for this. So they're interested in that regard as well. Now, I'm not exactly sure how the service works. Basically, again, it's based on the process ID, which typically would work for process isolated containers. This might be an issue in the future for Hyper-V isolated containers, I would guess, because you won't be able to see the processes which are running inside unless you query the process list through containerd. I'm assuming. I would have to double check that, but I'm assuming that there will be some potential issues there. But yeah, that was another topic that I think was interesting and of potential use, and it's Windows support is already being targeted as well.
Did you say that was a talk, a KubeCon talk?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Try and link
I
to
would
that.
have to search what was the name of the talk.
Mhm.
I'll write it in the agenda later when I find the talk itself and post a link to it. The talk will also be published on YouTube at one point, but I don't think it's published yet. But we'll have to follow.
Yeah, James
up on
added
that.
a link to where the talks should show up once they are published.
Mhm.
So we'll look at that. Cool. Thanks. Yeah.
Brandon, do you remember the talk name?
Sorry, what was the talk in reference to?
Was it the spiffy?
Yeah, the
Spire
spiffy
work?
one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the
yes,
one.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the HP folks were presenting on their implementation of Spire and Spiffy in Windows, and it was actually pretty great to hear. And it was really interesting, and we're going to work with them more closely on making sure that succeeds and we can get it working and have parity there.
Yeah, I'm interested in watching that talk. I've heard of the project that they're working on, but I didn't really know too much of the details.
Yep, you'll probably see Claudio and I there in the front of the classroom.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of spiffy. I will still have to play with it, but at first glance, it kind of looks nice. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Does anybody else? I see a couple of people have trickled in. Does anybody else have any topics they want to discuss? If not, maybe I think we can keep talking about this. We could end early, and I think hopefully next week we'll have more focused agenda. I think both with enhancements coming up, and then also just giving people time to come back after KubeCon.
Yeah, I have one question about running overlay CNI where like this Windows switch is added an access port or trunk port. Does anyone have done that kind of implementation or configuration?
Can you describe that a little bit more?
Basically, we use Win overlay, but the switch what we are creating, they're like putting in the access port and trunk port, whereas like when we use an access port, the traffic flows, but when we use trunk port, I think the traffic is not flowing. there are some issues there. So I'm trying to read it about like what if that we have an access port configuration, a trunk port configuration. I mean, I'm talking about the VLAN. So I'm not able to find any document in the Microsoft Docs. So just wanted to know, does anyone know any link or anything or this kind of configuration where I can go and look whether it is supported or not?
What was the second? You said what was the second port that you mentioned?
Access port and trunk port in the VLAN. There are two ways of a VLAN port you can create. One is access port, one is a trunk port. I think the difference is like I think trunk allow multiple VLAN ID packets, whereas I may be wrong. The access port allow only one particular VLAN tag. So that is the use of two different configuration.
I still didn't get the second type of port. I got the access port, but I didn't hear the second one. Maybe you can type it into
The
the
trunk,
message.
TRUNK. I can type.
Or trunk, I think.
Yeah, trunk.
Yeah,
Okay.
trunk port.
This might be a good conversation to start on Slack. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure we're gonna need some follow-up or to
Oh
dig
yeah,
into
I'll
that.
start at that because I
Yeah.
was trying to read and see if I can find the Google Microsoft. I couldn't find. I just thought like I'll ask if somebody knows some link so that I can start investigating that. Thanks.
Just
I'll
curious
start a thread.
about the thing. You mean chunk VLAN chunks for whom? For the containers or whom?
Oh, no, when when we create a vSwitch, right? The switch is like it's a virtual switch. Switch can be created with I think whether what kind of port in that behavior in the particular switch. I think you can either create a switch with a trunk port or access port mode. It's a different mode, I guess.
Okay.
Based on
But
the commands that you used.
Probably what I'll
Create the
do, I'll
switches.
try to start a thread with the information what I have. Probably that will be detail, I guess. I'll do it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that'll probably be the
Yeah, I'll do
best
that.
way to get folks involved. Cool. All right, I guess we'll end the meeting. Jay, do you have anything to discuss?
Dimitri, I don't know if you want to hang out after the meeting and talk about things. I know you're making progress with the Windows stuff on the KPMG side. I'm happy to hang out a little longer and look at stuff with you. Or
hey, I managed to unblock the Go build issue,
Cool.
and now I'm good to go. I reach out to you when I have issues.
Awesome. Cool. Great. We have an alternate Slack that we do a lot of high bandwidth work in. If folks want to work on that Kuproxy Windows Next Gen stuff with us, just feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to add people.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody. See you again in the future.
Okay. I can hang out a little later if folks want to. Otherwise, drop.